You are listening to Unleashed Now, the enterprise tech podcast generated entirely by AI. In this episode, we unleash into the bestseller book, Become a Super Salesforce Consultant by Heather Black, CEO of Supermums.
Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're going to be tackling Salesforce Consultancy. We've got a fantastic guide for this one, Heather Black's book, Become a Super Salesforce Consultant.
It really is jam-packed with practical advice, and it's straight from someone who's, been there and done that.
Build an incredibly impressive consultancy from the ground up.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's jump right in. What is a Salesforce consultant? I love that the book calls them masters of wearing multiple hats.
It's such a perfect way to describe it, because they're this bridge between a company's business needs, right, and all the technical solutions that Salesforce offers.
So are they more than just, like tech wizards coding away in the background?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So much more. They're business analysts, they're project managers, they're agents of change. They really dig deep into a company's goals, they map out processes, and they design these custom Salesforce solutions that really fit, whatever it is that the company is looking for.
I imagine that means communication skills are, non-negotiable, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they need to be able to understand the client's vision, manage expectations, and guide them through what can be a very complex world. Building that trust is so important.
Okay, so the author, Heather Black, she shares this really interesting story about her own journey into consultancy.
Right. She actually started by trying to build her own Salesforce system.
And she was like, okay, I'm going to do this.
It's one of those classic learn by doing stories, It's very relatable. And she's super open about making some rookie mistakes early on.
I feel like we've all been there.
Right. She didn't fully grasp the importance of things like, detailed business analysis or even just meticulous planning. Imagine trying to build a house, but you don't even have blueprints.
Oh, yeah. That's a recipe for disaster.
Total chaos. But here's the cool part. So she realized that she had these knowledge gaps, and she really went all in. She invested in training and certifications, and she just mastered all these key skills, like Agile project management and change management.
Total game changer, right?
It really was. She went from, this part-time freelancer struggling with Salesforce to building this award-winning consultancy.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing. It just shows you that dedication and continuous learning, it can take you really far.
Okay, so for our listeners out there who are thinking, hey, Salesforce Consultancy sounds pretty cool, what would you say is the big takeaway from her journey?
It's a path that requires passion, dedication, and just this willingness to constantly be learning, and adapt. The Salesforce landscape is always changing, but as Heather's success shows us, the rewards can be substantial, both personally and professionally.
I love that. So let's break down those core skills that she considers essential. She calls them the hat trick of consultancy skills. We've got Agile project management, business analysis, and change management. Let's start with Agile project management. Why is that so important, especially in the fast-paced world of Salesforce?
Right. So imagine you're leading this, Salesforce project, and suddenly everything shifts. The client's priorities change. Agile, specifically, a method called DSDM that provides the flexibility to adapt without derailing the entire project.
It makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's about delivering value within these fixed timeframes and budgets, prioritizing features, incorporating client feedback every step of the way.
So it helps prevent those nightmare scenarios of projects going way over budget and ending up with a frustrated client.
Exactly. The book, it actually has this case study where a team, they didn't prioritize requirements at all with the client, right? Led to these huge budget overruns and an unhappy client.
Well, that's the worst.
And if they had just used Agile, they could have delivered those high priority features right on time and within budget, kept everybody happy.
Okay, so Agile, it's all about being nimble, responsive, and collaborative. Makes total sense.
And that's, crucial in a world like Salesforce where things change constantly.
All right, next up in the hat trick, business analysis. The book really stresses how crucial it is to truly understand the client's needs and their pain points before even thinking about jumping into a solution.
Right. It's kind of like you wouldn't prescribe medicine without understanding the symptoms.
Yeah,
right?
you got to know what you're dealing with.
Same thing here. You can't just build this perfect solution without understanding the problem that you're trying to solve.
You've got to ask those probing questions.
Yeah.
Really get to the root of it.
It's actually kind of shocking. Did you know that in a LinkedIn poll, poor business analysis was voted the biggest risk to Salesforce projects?
Wow. Seriously.
Yeah. Which goes to show that, technical expertise alone is just not enough. You need that ability to analyze a business, pinpoint those areas for improvement, and then turn all of those insights into practical and effective solutions.
The book even mentions that organizations that use like a structured business analysis approach saw a significant jump in project performance.
It's true. And we're talking about projects that are delivered on time, within budget, and that truly, exceed expectations. That's the dream.
That's what we're all aiming for.
Right. So investing in this skill set, it's a must for anyone serious about excelling in Salesforce consultancy.
Okay, so the final skill in the hat trick is change management. This is where Heather actually admits she underestimated it early on in her career.
Oh, yeah. It's a common mistake. You can get so caught up in the technical side of Salesforce that you forget about, the human element. It's not just about installing software, right? It's about transforming how people work.
Yeah, that can be a recipe for like resistance if you're not careful, right?
Definitely. And Heather shares this anecdote about facing resistance from clients because they just weren't prepared for this big shift.
Oh, so they felt like they were being thrown into the deep end.
Kind of, yeah. Overwhelmed, unsure how to use the system. So what she started doing was incorporating change management principles into her process.
So like more support, more hand-holding.
Exactly. Clear communication, thorough training, just those strategies that encourage user adoption. By addressing those human factors, she was able to achieve these smoother implementations and much greater buy-in from her clients.
It sounds like change management is really all about making that transition to Salesforce as seamless and positive as possible for everyone involved.
That's the goal.
Okay, would you say that mastering these three skills, this hat trick, is like the foundation for anyone who's serious about succeeding in Salesforce consultancy?
I mean, without a doubt. Mastering those skills is what will set you apart. It shows you can deliver real value, lasting value to clients. It's about seeing the big picture and understanding that technology is only one piece of the puzzle.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about, how do you actually build a thriving consultancy? The book, it talks about forming a high-performing team, both internally, with your own people and with the client.
Yeah. Teamwork is crucial for any Salesforce project. You need, a good mix of individuals, different skills that complement each other, who can collaborate.
So you're building like your own little A-team.
Exactly. And Heather, she suggests using, those personality assessments, but things like DSC and Belbin, to really get a feel for who you're working with.
Yeah, it's so helpful to understand how people work best and, what their strengths are. So you can really build a team that thrives.
Absolutely. It's like putting together a dream team of Salesforce superheroes.
All right, next up, the book actually cautions against, just jumping into every project that comes your way, emphasizing how crucial it is to, thoroughly evaluate opportunities before you commit.
It's about being strategic, right? Not every project is going to be a good fit for your skills, your resources, or even your company's culture. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is say no.
It's hard to say no, though, sometimes, right?
I know, but it's about protecting your time and your resources, and ultimately, your reputation as a consultant.
You don't want to take on a project that's going to tank and then suddenly, your reputation's damaged.
Exactly. Heather, she recommends using something called a risk register.
Okay, what's that?
It's a way to identify those potential red flags early on. Are the objectives unclear? Is there buy-in from stakeholders? Is there a misalignment between what the client expects and what you can realistically deliver?
It's like having a radar system for potential project disasters.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, so the book delves into something called governance and centers of excellence, or COEs. Can you break that down a little bit for us? Why are these so important for long-term success?
Okay, so imagine a COE as this guiding force, right? It's like a central hub of expertise that makes sure everything is consistent. You've got quality and best practices across all of your projects, provides structure, guidance, and a clear framework.
So it's like creating a culture of excellence around Salesforce, from the top down.
Yeah, exactly. Heather really highlights what can happen if you neglect this aspect of things. You can have inconsistent data quality, a lack of clear decision-making processes, and you end up with a Salesforce implementation that just doesn't live up to its full potential.
That sounds like a nightmare scenario, honestly.
It can be. The COE, it's really about setting the stage for success in the long run, making sure Salesforce is this valuable asset, not a source of frustration.
Awesome. Okay, I want to talk about building a rockstar Salesforce team.
Yes, everyone wants a rock star team.
The book gives some great advice on attracting and retaining top talent, in today's competitive market.
Well, it's about showcasing what makes your company a great place to work, a place where talented people can really thrive, learn, make an impact.
So it's about more than just like a competitive salary and benefits.
Definitely. It's about the whole package. Heather shares some tips on crafting, like really compelling job descriptions, highlighting what makes you stand out.
Yeah, what are those unique perks that people are looking for?
You want to talk about opportunities for professional growth, exciting projects, a supportive company culture, maybe even the chance to work on projects that align with their personal values.
I feel like that's becoming more and more important to people these days.
Absolutely. You want to attract people who are not just skilled, but who are also passionate about Salesforce, who are aligned with your company's vision. It's about building a team that's, talented and driven.
The book also touches on the importance of diversity in hiring.
Yes. And building a diverse team, it's not about checking boxes, it's about fostering a richer and more innovative environment.
Because, you have people with different backgrounds and perspectives and experiences. That leads to all sorts of new ideas and solutions.
Absolutely. It creates an inclusive culture where everyone feels valued and respected and empowered to contribute.
All right, let's shine a spotlight on those unsung heroes of Salesforce, the champions. These are the folks within the client organization who really become like internal cheerleaders for Salesforce.
Yes. The ones who are driving user adoption, answering questions, providing support. They're like Salesforce ambassadors on the ground,
They can really make or break the success of an implementation, right?
Absolutely. Because they bridge the gap between, the technical team and the everyday users, and they make sure the platform is being embraced and, actually used effectively.
So how do you go about finding these champions and training them so they can be successful?
Heather recommends looking for individuals who are both, excited about Salesforce and also have those skills to support their colleagues. People who are helpful, patient, and good communicators.
They're natural teachers.
Yes, exactly. They need to be able to explain things in a way that's clear, and relatable, break down those complex concepts.
And you want to find those natural leaders, the ones who can inspire people.
Precisely. The book even suggests offering incentives, like extra training or even career advancement opportunities.
You want to keep those champions engaged and motivated.
Exactly. Recognizing their contributions is so important.
So identifying and nurturing those champions is crucial. It's about building this network of advocates within the client's company who can really help drive adoption and make sure Salesforce sticks.
Yeah. And that's where we're going to pick things up in part 2. We'll be exploring strategies for ensuring those implementations deliver lasting value and, that they're actually used.
Sounds good. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're picking up right where we left off, talking about how to make sure those Salesforce implementations you're leading really deliver, that they're not just another piece of software that people ignore.
Yeah, it's all about making sure those implementations become like truly valuable assets for the client.
So they're not gathering dust.
Exactly. It's about going beyond just getting Salesforce up and running.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure it's actually embraced and used effectively.
Driving tangible benefits for the client. That's what sets a good consultant apart from a truly super one.
Okay, and one of the key things we touched on was the importance of demonstrating a clear return on investment, or, as we like to call it, ROI.
Right. You have to be able to show the client how Salesforce is impacting their bottom line.
So it's not just about, Salesforce is cool.
No, it's got to be about the results. Is it boosting sales, improving customer satisfaction, streamlining their processes, ideally all of the above?
It's about connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Showing how Salesforce leads to those real business outcomes.
And the book shares some great examples of companies that have done this really well.
Oh, I love a good example. Can you share one?
Yeah. So there's this one about a company that used Salesforce to, get this, triple their sales from existing customers.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. They implemented a targeted e-marketing solution. Imagine the impact that kind of result has on a business.
That's amazing. It just shows you what's possible when you use Salesforce strategically.
Right. It's about changing the conversation. It's not just, here's what Salesforce can do. It's, here's how Salesforce can transform your business.
Okay, so let's talk about user adoption. Even with the best implementation, the best training, it can still be tough to get everyone on board and using Salesforce consistently.
Oh, yeah. It definitely can be. And the book dives into some of the reasons why some implementations just, don't quite hit the mark when it comes to user adoption.
Like what?
Well, often it comes down to things like training. Is the training adequate? Are the materials engaging? Do they really resonate with, the average user?
Because you can have the best system in the world, but if people don't know how to use it, it's useless.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not even about knowing how to use it. It's about understanding why they should use it.
You've got to show them the value.
Yeah.
The what's in it for me.
Exactly. If people don't see how Salesforce makes their lives easier or helps them do their jobs better, they're not going to be motivated to use it.
Right. They need to see that it's a tool that can benefit them.
And to really get to the root of those adoption challenges, Heather, she talks about this really interesting methodology. It's called NLP logical levels.
Ooh, okay. Remember, you mentioned this before. This is where you're peeling back the layers of the onion.
Exactly. It helps you understand that resistance to Salesforce, it can happen at different levels. And each level needs, a slightly different approach.
So walk us through it. What are those levels?
Okay, so first, you've got the practical level. This is like, can they even use the software? Can they log in? Do they understand the basic functions?
So it's about making sure they're not getting stuck on those, like, really basic things.
Right. If they're struggling to even find the button to create a new contact, it doesn't matter how amazing all the other features are.
You got to nail the basics.
Exactly. Then, once you're past those practical hurdles, you move up to the level of behaviors. This is where you're looking at, are they using Salesforce regularly? Have they integrated it into their workflow?
So it's not just about knowing how to use it. It's about actually using it consistently.
Right. You want to make Salesforce the path of least resistance, so seamlessly integrated into their work that it becomes, second nature.
I love that. Make it a habit.
Exactly. Then the next layer is capabilities. Do they have the skills? Do they have the knowledge? Do they feel confident in their ability to use Salesforce effectively?
So it's about empowering them, not just training them.
Absolutely. And then finally, you've got this deepest level. It's the core of the onion. It's beliefs and values.
Okay, so this is where it gets really deep.
Yeah. It's about understanding, do they even believe in Salesforce? Does it align with, their work style, their values? Do they see it as a benefit or a burden?
So it goes beyond just, can I use this? It's, do I want to use this?
Exactly. And this is where things can get tricky. Because if someone believes that Salesforce is a waste of time, no amount of training is going to change that.
So how do you address that? How do you overcome that kind of resistance?
Well, it's about understanding those beliefs, and maybe reframing the conversation. You might need to show them success stories from other departments, highlight how Salesforce aligns with the company's goals, maybe even connect it to their personal aspirations.
So it's about making it personal and showing how Salesforce can be a tool for their own success.
Exactly. And what I love about the NLP logical levels is that it reminds us that user adoption isn't just about teaching people how to click buttons. It's about understanding the human element.
It's about those deeper motivations, the why behind the what.
Precisely. And I think this methodology could be really valuable in any situation, not just Salesforce. Anytime you're trying to drive change or get people to embrace something new.
It's a great framework for thinking about how to approach those situations.
Definitely. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about ROI. Return on investment. We touched on this briefly before, but I think it's so crucial to really dive in.
Because you can't just tell clients, Salesforce is great.
Right. You have to show them the value. How is it impacting their bottom line? What are those tangible benefits?
So it's about connecting those Salesforce activities to real business outcomes.
Exactly. Instead of just saying, hey, everyone's logging in, you're saying, look, Salesforce helped you close more deals this quarter. Or it helped reduce customer support tickets by 20%.
It's about making that direct link between the technology and the results.
And the book has some really good examples of how to do this effectively. There's this case study about a manufacturing company.
Ooh, tell me more.
They were having all these issues with inventory management, constantly running out of stock, which led to delays, frustrated customers, the whole 9 yards. But once they implemented Salesforce, they were able to streamline everything, optimize their supply chain.
So they went from chaos to control.
Pretty much. And the results were incredible. They saw way more on-time deliveries, less waste, and happier customers.
That's a powerful story to share with a potential client who might be on the fence.
Exactly. It shows them what's possible. So, moving on. The book also talks about the importance of ongoing support and optimization.
Because it's not just about setting up Salesforce and then peace out, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, definitely not. It's a journey. It requires that continuous attention, Support, optimization, to make sure that the platform is always meeting the client's needs.
It's about building that long-term relationship.
Exactly. Heather suggests setting up those regular check-ins with clients just to see how things are going, address any challenges, are there opportunities for improvement?
But so it's about being proactive,
Yeah,
anticipating their needs.
right. And this can involve, providing additional training, recommending new features, even helping them create a roadmap for future enhancements.
It's about being their trusted advisor, their Salesforce guru.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about champions, ROI, and the importance of ongoing support. Now let's dive into another essential piece of the puzzle. Stakeholders.
The people who can make or break a project.
Right. Stakeholders are anyone who has a vested interest in the Salesforce implementation. So you've got executives, department heads, IT teams, end users, a whole mix of people.
And they all have different priorities, different perspectives.
Absolutely. And being able to navigate that stakeholder landscape, it's a critical skill.
It sounds like a delicate dance.
It can be. You have to understand their motivations, build those relationships, manage expectations, and ultimately, get everyone on board.
Okay, so how do you do that? How do you understand those different personalities and, tailor your approach to each one?
Heather suggests using organizational metaphors to help with this. So, for example, she talks about some organizations being like machines.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means they're very hierarchical, they have lots of structure, and they really rely on data to make decisions. So when you're working with stakeholders in a machine type of organization, you've got to be prepared with all the details. Follow the chain of command.
Lots of documentation, I bet.
Yeah, and when you're communicating with them, you want to emphasize logic and efficiency.
It's about speaking their language.
Exactly. Then you have organizations that are more like organisms. They're all about collaboration, creativity, flexibility.
So a little less rigid than the machines.
Definitely. With these folks, you can be a bit more flexible in your approach. Emphasize the human element of the project.
Be open to feedback.
Yes, exactly. Then you have organizations that are like cultures, where there's this strong emphasis on shared values, beliefs, a sense of community. So with them, you want to connect with those values, highlight how the project impacts the whole organization, build those relationships based on trust.
It's about being authentic and building those genuine connections.
Right. And of course, not every organization fits perfectly into one category. The key is to be observant, ask questions, and really listen to understand the dynamics of each group.
Be a chameleon. Adapt to the environment.
That's a great way to put it. And as you're building those relationships, remember to be transparent, communicate openly, and be realistic about expectations. Celebrate the wins together and, just always maintain that respect.
This has been such a great conversation. We've talked about so much, from champions and ROI to those stakeholder dynamics, and there's still so much more to explore. So be sure to join us for part 3, where we'll wrap up this deep dive and talk about how to build a truly fulfilling and successful career as a Super Salesforce consultant. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've made it to the final part of our exploration of Become a Super Salesforce Consultant. We've talked about so much already, from essential skills to user adoption and everything in between.
And now it's time to focus on you, the aspiring Salesforce superstar.
Yes. This last part is all about helping you build a fulfilling and successful career in this exciting world. The book really emphasizes the importance of having a mindset of reflection and continuous improvement.
Which makes total sense, right? I mean, in any field, you need to constantly be learning and growing, but especially in the fast-paced world of technology. And Salesforce is no exception.
It's like they say, the only constant is change.
So true. And Heather has this great practice that she calls the Project X-ray.
Okay, tell me about that.
It's all about taking the time to really reflect on each Salesforce implementation you work on, both the good and the bad, and figuring out what you can learn from it.
So it's like taking a step back after a project is done and really analyzing what went well, what could have been done better, and what you can take away from the experience.
Exactly. It's like a post-game analysis, but for your Salesforce project.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So you're not just moving on to the next thing without really processing what happened.
Right. And you can even involve your team in this process, get feedback from stakeholders, even talk to the client to get their perspective.
It's about creating a culture of continuous improvement.
Exactly. And not only does it make you a better consultant, but it also helps you figure out, where your strengths are, what you're really good at, and those things that you're passionate about.
Okay, and that brings us to our next topic, building a career plan. Whether you're looking to climb the corporate ladder or maybe even start your own consultancy someday, having a roadmap is so important.
It's about setting those goals, both short-term and long-term, and then figuring out, okay, how am I going to get there?
The book offers some really specific advice on navigating the Salesforce career landscape.
Like certifications. Salesforce offers a ton of certifications that cover, different products and roles. They're like those badges of honor that show everyone, hey, I know my stuff.
It's proof that you've put in the work.
Right. And they can really give you a leg up in the job market. Another thing Heather recommends is specializing in a niche area.
Okay, I've heard about that. What does that mean exactly?
So the Salesforce world is huge, right? There are tons of different industries and products and services. Finding a niche means becoming like the expert in a specific area.
So you're not just a generalist who knows a little bit about everything.
Right. You become the go-to person for a specific industry or a particular product, or maybe even a specialized skill set like data migration.
It's about finding that thing that you're really good at and then, owning it.
Exactly. And it makes you so much more valuable to clients. Plus, you get to focus on those areas of Salesforce that you're truly passionate about.
It's a win-win. Okay, I know we can't talk about building a successful career without mentioning networking.
Oh, for sure. Networking is so important. It's about connecting with other Salesforce professionals, going to industry events, being active in online communities.
It's about building those relationships and learning from each other.
Right. And it's not just about, collecting business cards. It's about finding mentors, making connections, and contributing your own unique talents and perspectives.
It's about building your tribe within the Salesforce world.
Yes. And speaking of finding your tribe, I want to circle back to this concept Heather talks about, finding your zone of genius.
Ooh, yes. I loved that part. Tell me more about that.
So it's about identifying those areas where your skills and your passions really come together. It's that sweet spot where you feel most energized and fulfilled, where you can really make a difference.
It's that work that feels less like work and more like, your calling.
Exactly. And there are so many ways to find your zone of genius within the Salesforce world. Maybe you become a master of a specific product like Sales Cloud or Service Cloud. Maybe you specialize in a certain industry. Or maybe you build your personal brand as a thought leader.
There's so many possibilities.
Right. The key is to be open to exploring those different avenues and, experimenting a little to see what really lights you up.
Okay, so we've talked about all these different strategies for building a successful career.
Yeah.
For someone listening who's ready to take that leap, what's the most important piece of advice you can give them?
I would say embrace that growth mindset. Be curious, be open to learning new things, and never stop growing. Find mentors who can guide you, connect with peers who inspire you, and build a community that supports you along the way. And most importantly, trust your instincts. Follow your passions. Don't be afraid to forge your own path.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
And remember, Heather's own story is proof that with hard work and dedication, you can achieve anything in the Salesforce world.
Absolutely. It's a field that rewards those who are passionate and driven, and always looking for ways to grow.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive into the world of Salesforce Consultancy. I feel like we've learned so much.
Me too. And I hope our listeners feel inspired and empowered to take their Salesforce careers to the next level.
Be sure to check out Heather Black's book, Become a Super Salesforce Consultant, for even more insights and advice. It's a must-read for anyone who's serious about excelling in this field.
And remember, the journey starts with a single step. So what will yours be?
That's a great question to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening. Subscribe to our podcast to be the first to hear our next episode. You can find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube.